wrestling legend Hulk Hogan has died. His manager told NBC Los Angeles that Hogan died surrounded by his family in Clearwater, Florida this morning. He was 71 years old.
Hulk Hogan is dead. The most famous wrestler of all time, gone at 71. Officially, the cause was a heart attack. But when FBI agents entered his Florida mansion, what they claimed to have uncovered left even them speechless. A hidden room. Files never meant to be seen. Secrets that could rewrite wrestling history. Was Hulk Hogan living a double life? And could those secrets have played a role in his final hours? Join us as we find out all about what the FBI found in Hulk Hogan's mansion shortly after his death. The shocking death of a wrestling icon. At 71, the man who carried professional wrestling into the mainstream was found lifeless inside his Clearwater, Florida mansion. Hulk Hogan's official cause of death was listed as a massive heart attack. But within hours of the announcement, the wrestling world was buzzing. Fans weren't just mourning a legend, they were questioning the story. Because something about the scene didn't add up. Hogan wasn't an ordinary wrestler. He was the wrestler. In the 1980s, when Vince McMahon was transforming the WWF into a global spectacle, Hogan was the centerpiece. He headlined the very first WrestleMania in 1985, slamming giants like Andre the Giant and becoming the superhero of an entire generation. His catchphrases, "Say your prayers, eat your vitamins," were recited by kids across America. His red and yellow gear became as iconic as Superman's cape. Then came the 90s. Hogan shocked the industry with one of the most infamous heel turns in history, joining the New World Order in WCW. He went from beloved hero to the most hated villain overnight, and in doing so, reinvented his career. It was the kind of transformation only the true greats could pull off. Even outside the squared circle, Hogan was everywhere. TV shows, commercials, and reality programs. His fame crossed into pop culture. He wasn't just a wrestler, he was a global brand. That's why his death hit differently. This wasn't another tragic wrestling story like the ones that filled headlines in the past. Hogan's passing felt like the curtain closing on wrestling's golden era. But the shock only grew when reports began trickling in from Clearwater. Locals claimed they saw unmarked black SUVs outside Hogan's mansion on the night of his death. Neighbors whispered about federal agents removing boxes under the cover of darkness. And when property records were checked, there was no sign of a basement. Yet witnesses swore agents were entering one. What was inside that hidden room? According to whispers, investigators uncovered files, tapes, and handwritten notes that didn't match the image Hogan spent decades building. Some said it was personal business dealings. Others claimed it involved names from wrestling's past, people Hogan never wanted mentioned again. None of it has been confirmed, but the rumors alone have thrown gasoline on the fire of speculation. So the questions hang heavy. Was Hulk Hogan hiding more than fans ever knew? And could those secrets explain why the FBI took such an interest in his final hours? But the story doesn't start in that basement. It starts hours before his death, with one phone call that still hasn't been explained. Mysterious final phone call. On the night before his death, Hulk Hogan picked up the phone and dialed a number. It was a short call, only 4 minutes long, but it has become one of the most puzzling details in the investigation. Phone records confirmed the call came from Hogan's Clearwater mansion. The problem? The other end wasn't tied to any United States carrier. Investigators traced it to an encrypted overseas server, often linked to private security networks and, in some cases, criminal organizations. For a man who spent nearly his whole life under bright lights, this behavior was strange. Hulk Hogan had spent the last decade living like a semi-retired legend, attending WWE Hall of Fame ceremonies, signing autographs, and chatting with fans who grew up idolizing him. His daily routine was predictable: mornings at the gym, afternoons on the beach, and quiet evenings at home. He wasn't the kind of man to make secret calls in the middle of the night. So when investigators discovered that a late hidden number call before his death, it didn't fit. Why that night? And who was he calling? Investigators noted something else: Hogan's tone. According to a partial transcript reviewed by insiders, his voice was low, rushed, and tense. It wasn't the booming confidence fans knew from the microphone. It sounded like a man under pressure. The call cut off suddenly, with no goodbye. What makes the moment even stranger is what Hogan allegedly said just days before. In a conversation with his daughter, Brooke, he told her, "If anything happens to me, check the basement." That line has become infamous, raising more questions than answers. Brooke later admitted she didn't know what her father meant. Hogan's health had been fragile after multiple back surgeries, but he was recovering well and even told fans he felt stronger. So why leave a warning that sounded like a man preparing for the worst? Some whispers around the wrestling community suggest money was at the heart of it. Hogan's estate, once valued at $25 million, had reportedly shrunk to just $5 million. Official filings show years of legal battles, divorce settlements, and bad business investments. But investigators have wondered if that missing fortune connects to the mysterious call. Was Hogan trying to protect what was left of his wealth? Or had he gotten involved in something darker? The FBI has kept the content of the call sealed, citing active investigation. That silence has fueled endless theories. Some say it was a warning from an old associate. Others claim it was Hogan himself, making a desperate plea for help. But without hard answers, the final phone call remains one of the most chilling threads in the case. To understand why this call mattered so much, you need to know what Hogan was going through physically and how his body had already been pushed to the limit long before that night. Behind the fame, Hogan's health battles. Hulk Hogan's body was his business. Every match, every slam, every flex of those 24-inch pythons was money in the bank. But that same body took a level of punishment most fans never saw. Decades in the squared circle left him scarred, stitched, and rebuilt piece by piece. By his own count, he had endured more than 10 major surgeries. Doctors replaced both hips. They cut into both knees. His spine was fused with rods and bolts. He had metal plates, screws, and artificial joints keeping him upright. The image on TV was always the same: the indestructible hero, tearing his shirt, hulking up, and dropping the big leg for the win. But behind the curtain, Hogan sometimes struggled just to get out of bed. His daughter Brooke once said that mornings could be brutal. It could take him minutes just to stand. Fans saw the muscles and the charisma, but at home, he was a man living with constant pain. Even worse, he knew the risks of medication. In interviews, Hogan admitted he begged doctors not to put him on heavy opioids after surgery. He had seen what those harmful substances did to other wrestlers: addiction, slowed breathing, even death. That one detail has become a haunting thread in the investigation. If Hogan avoided opioids, then why did the official reports list respiratory failure linked to medication? Hospitals were never safe spaces for him either. Fame followed him everywhere. Brooke and his second wife, Jennifer, often acted like security guards at his bedside. Nurses slipped into his room for selfies while he was still half asleep from anesthesia. Hogan hated it. The man who had sold out arenas didn't want to feel like a zoo exhibit while he was at his weakest. But that was the price of being Hulk Hogan. By 2024, he was still working appearances, smiling for cameras, signing autographs, and shaking hands. But close friends admitted privately that his health was fragile. His back ached, his breathing wasn't always steady, and the surgeries had taken a toll. That's why, when the news broke that he had died from a sudden heart attack, many in the wrestling world hesitated. Something didn't line up. Why would a man so careful about his medications, so aware of the risks, collapse so suddenly? The FBI looked deeper. They reviewed hospital notes, pharmacy logs, and even interviewed medical staff. But the strangest clue wasn't in the hospital. It was in Hogan's own home, inside a hidden basement room full of files, records, and documents that suggested he may have known far more about the darker side of wrestling than anyone imagined. And once those files came to light, the story shifted from a simple death to something far more disturbing. What did the investigators find inside Hulk Hogan's mansion that even his family didn't know existed? And that's where the story turns from personal pain to family chaos, because Hogan's death opened up old wounds that had never healed, family feuds and fortune fights. When Hulk Hogan's will was finally read, it shocked even those who thought they knew the family drama. His estate, valued at around $5 million, went almost entirely to his son, Nick. His widow, Sky Daly, was recognized as the surviving spouse, but she wasn't listed as a main beneficiary. Under Florida law, she could still legally claim up to a third of the estate. But the true bombshell? Brooke Hogan, his only daughter, wasn't mentioned at all. Why was Brooke cut out? That question still hangs heavy. Some claimed it was because of years of tension between father and daughter. Their relationship had always been complicated, especially after her music career fell apart. Others whispered that outside forces may have influenced the decision. Rumors online tied Sky Daly to powerful groups who wanted control of Hogan's finances. None of that has ever been confirmed, but the speculation only fueled the fire. Brooke herself refused to fight. In a brief public statement, she said she didn't want to be dragged into another circus of lawsuits. After years of scandals and betrayals, she wanted peace, even if it meant walking away from millions. Her words, "I don't want to fight forces bigger than my family," hinted at something deeper. The wounds between them were real. One revelation that stunned fans was the claim that Hogan once sabotaged his own daughter's career. Brooke believed her record label dropped her, but insiders later said it was Hogan who wrote the letter ending her deal. He wanted to redirect her toward reality television and personal appearances that aligned with his business ventures. Brooke was devastated, and their bond never fully healed. And then came the scandal that scarred the family forever, the infamous sex tape. At first, Hogan accused his former friend Bubba, the love sponge, of orchestrating it. But FBI investigations later revealed the tape had been stolen by an employee and used in an extortion attempt. The fallout was massive. Ho sued Gawker, won a $140 million verdict, and became the center of one of the biggest media lawsuits in history. But the damage to his name, his marriage, and his children was permanent. Everywhere you looked, the Hogan family carried scars. His first marriage collapsed under the weight of reality TV cameras. His son Nick faced legal trouble after a near-fatal car crash. His friendships crumbled in courtrooms. By the time of his death, Hogan's world looked less like the bright lights of WrestleMania and more like the wreckage of a family divided. But the deepest cut wasn't in the will or the tabloids. It was waiting beneath his home, in the hidden room that would send the FBI investigation spiraling into darker territory. What secrets did Hulk Hogan leave behind in that basement? But even with the drama, nothing prepared investigators for what they actually uncovered inside the mansion itself. Inside the mansion. From the outside, Hulk Hogan's Clearwater mansion looked like the dream home of a wrestling icon. Sitting just minutes from the Gulf of Mexico, it had marble floors that gleamed like an arena spotlight, walls lined with championship belts and framed magazine covers, and a private gym stacked with equipment. Fans who visited described it as a shrine to the Immortal One, a place where Hogan's larger-than-life persona lived on even in retirement. But the FBI saw something different. During their search, investigators discovered a section of the house that wasn't listed on any public blueprints. Behind what looked like a plain wall in the lower level, agents uncovered a hidden door. The door opened to a steep, narrow staircase leading to a locked basement room. What they found inside went far beyond memorabilia. The room was filled with what appeared to be a private archive, stacks of organized files, boxes of handwritten notes, and VHS tapes neatly labeled with names that wrestling fans would instantly recognize. According to people close to the investigation, some of the documents detailed payouts to wrestlers, lists of injuries, and records of behind-the-scenes disputes that had never been made public. It looked less like a trophy room and more like an evidence locker. Even more startling were the financial records. Investigators reportedly found ledgers that didn't line up with Hogan's official estate filings. Money trails led to offshore accounts in the Caribbean. Licensing agreements showed deals that began on paper but seemed to vanish before reaching the books. Some names connected to the money were not just wrestlers, but Hollywood executives and promoters who had worked with Hogan during the height of his fame. Witnesses at the mansion later said that when the FBI carried out boxes of material, several agents looked visibly shaken. Whatever they saw wasn't just fan mail or contracts. It carried the weight of something far bigger, potential evidence that could ripple through the wrestling industry. And then came the discovery that sent shockwaves even deeper. Among the files was a handwritten note, believed to be Hogan's own words. In it, he warned that the wrestling business eats its own, and that no superstar could escape the machine once they were inside it. For fans who grew up hearing him preach vitamins, prayers, and loyalty, it was a chilling glimpse into how he really saw the industry in his final years. If Hogan's mansion held this much, what else was hidden in the empire he built? The trail didn't end in Clearwater. It was only the beginning of the mystery. But what does all this mean for Hulk Hogan's legacy? And how will fans remember him now that these secrets are surfacing? Hulk Hogan's legacy and lingering secrets. Hulk Hogan's death closed the book on one of wrestling's greatest careers, but his Clearwater mansion made sure the story didn't end quietly. Bought for about $3.3 million in 2012, the 6,000-square-foot home overlooked Clearwater Harbor, with all marble floors, sweeping staircases, and golden lights spilling across the water. Every corner reflected his legacy. His private gym displayed championship belts, signed photos, and dumbbells from his early WWF days. The entertainment room was packed with red and yellow memorabilia, action figures, boots, and bandanas from WrestleMania main events. Visitors said it felt less like a house and more like a shrine to wrestling's golden era. But beneath the glamour, strange details emerged. Contractors later claimed Hogan ordered parts of the mansion soundproofed and added a reinforced door to a lower level not listed in the blueprints. Neighbors reported midnight visitors, flickering basement lights, and black SUVs pulling into the driveway months before his death. But hidden in the basement was something far less public. When FBI agents opened the locked archive, They removed boxes that, according to witnesses, contained not memorabilia, but records. Some files detailed injuries sustained by performers during the 1980s boom, years before WWE introduced wellness policies. Others outlined quiet financial settlements. There were also ledgers, lists of offshore transfers, and licensing agreements that didn't appear in Hogan's estate papers. Nothing in those files has been officially confirmed, but the fact that federal agents spent hours inside that hidden room shows the government believed there was more at stake than just personal notes. One agent, according to a neighbor, left looking stunned, carrying a binder instead of a trophy case souvenir. For wrestling fans used to kayfabe, the industry's scripted illusion, this was real, and it was unsettling. Hogan's legacy complicates the picture. He wasn't just another wrestler. He was the man who helped Vince McMahon turn the World Wrestling Federation into a billion-dollar business. His 1987 match with Andre the Giant still holds the indoor attendance record for its era. His heel turn in WCW with the New World Order reshaped how storylines worked, proving wrestling could reinvent itself. But the files hinted at a darker backdrop, that stars were disposable, that business decisions overshadowed health, and that Hogan himself may have carried proof of it all until the end. The Mansion mystery changes how people talk about him. Instead of only recalling the red and yellow hero, fans now debate whether Hogan spent his last years preparing for one final reveal. Did he want the world to see how wrestling really worked once he was gone? Or was the basement archive simply his way of protecting himself from debts and enemies? What's clear is that his death didn't just mark the fall of an icon. It opened a story that stretches far beyond the walls of his Clearwater home into the future of how professional wrestling itself will be remembered. Thank you for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe. Also, check out another interesting video by clicking on the link shown on your screen. See you on the other side.